Hey guys! Today we'll be covering a 2017 comedy film called Jalouse. The movie opens up with a beautiful teenage girl, Mathilde Péchot, and her boyfriend Felix returning home late in the evening. It's Mathilde's 18th birthday, and her family is waiting for her to celebrate the special day. As soon as Mathilde enters her house, her mother and all her other relatives present wish her a happy birthday and sing for her. Later, Mathilde's mother Natalie can be seen talking to her best friend Sophie about Mathilde and her caring boyfriend. Just then, she notices her ex-husband Jean-Pierre with his new and young wife Isabelle and approaches them to offer up some servings. As the three talk, Natalie feels that Isabelle is not only less attractive, but also less intelligent than her. However, when the young wife mentions that Jean-Pierre is taking her to the Maldives for a vacation, Natalie becomes jealous and walks away. In the next scene after the party is over, Sophie and Natalie are alone at home. The latter is still devastated that Jean is taking his new wife to the Maldives and starts drowning her sorrows. Being the good friend that she is, Sophie consoles her, saying it's not a big deal. The next day, Natalie, who is a literature teacher, arrives at school late and hurries to her class. On her way, she meets a woman asking for directions to the principal's office, but Natalie refuses to help her and walks away. She then enters her class and apologizes to her students for being late. After the class is over, the principal of the school approaches Natalie and introduces a new teacher to her. The new teacher is none other than the woman whom Natalie refused to help earlier. Natalie quickly apologizes to Melanie, stating that she mistook her for a student before. As the two talk, we learn that Melanie is supposed to help Natalie complete several literature projects with her students. When she proposes to bring some real autobiography writers for their students, the principal likes the idea, but Natalie does not. Afterward, she returns home and gets ready for a blind date set up by Sophie. She then heads straight to Sophie's house, where she finds her sitting with her husband Thierry and his business partner, Sébastien Courty. Sophie introduces Sébastien and Natalie to each other and tells them all about Natalie, including her profession, divorce, and her beautiful 18-year-old daughter. Sébastien listens with keen interest and seems to be attracted to Natalie. On their way back home, Sébastien tells her that he really likes listening to Coltrane's music and drops Natalie at the front of her house. Despite being willing to spend the night with Sébastien, Natalie acts dignified and walks home. A few minutes later, she tries to stop him, but fails as Sébastien has already driven away. Frustrated, Natalie enters the house and soon, Mathilde arrives home with Felix. Upset, Natalie stops her daughter from taking Felix to her bedroom, making an excuse about her approaching dance audition, and sends him back to his home. As expected, this angers Mathilde, but when she tries to argue with her mother, she gets slapped. The following morning, Natalie tries to defend her actions and apologize to Mathilde, but the teenager is in no mood to talk. Later, Natalie visits a doctor and tells him that she is having mood swings and is getting angry for nothing. After hearing her out, the doctor reveals that she is approaching menopause and the mood swings are a symptom of it. He also tells her that this stage of transition may last from months to several years, which surprises her. While returning back from the doctor, Natalie enters a travel agency and inquires about the holiday package booked under the name Jean-Pierre. When the employee confirms the booking, Natalie pretends to be the current wife of John and asks her to cancel the package. She states that they recently had the death of a family member and are unable to go on the holiday. The employee believes her and immediately cancels the package. At her school, Natalie attends an informal meeting with the teachers, including Melanie. All the other teachers seem to like Melanie's idea of collaborating with each other to expand their knowledge horizons and to help the students. However, Natalie thinks otherwise and humiliates Melanie in front of everyone, calling her immature. In the next scene, Felix is invited for dinner at Natalie's house and can be seen looking through photo albums with Mathilde. Right then, the moody Natalie intervenes and starts making fun of her daughter's childhood photos, embarrassing Mathilde. Later, while having dinner, when Mathilde leaves to call her father, Jean, Natalie tells Felix that her daughter has already had a significant number of boyfriends. Hearing this, Felix gets surprised, as his girlfriend never mentioned this to him. Later, Natalie can be seen having dinner with Sébastien at her house. While the two are talking about their failed marriages, Mathilde enters the kitchen to get some water. Sébastien looks at Mathilde when she passes by. Seeing this, out of nowhere Natalie gets angry and accuses Sébastien of checking out her daughter with perverted eyes. She then rudely asks him to get out of her house, without giving him a chance to explain himself. Furthermore, she also confronts Mathilde for interrupting their dinner date and yells at her. In the next scene, frustrated with her current life situation, Natalie meets with Sophie at a bar and drinks heavily. But even there, she creates a mess when she calls Sophie's daughter ugly, making her friend walk out of there without saying a word. The scene then shifts to Mathilde's pre-audition, where she performs well and gets selected for the next round. Jean and Natalie congratulate her for her selection and let her know that they are really proud of her. In the meantime, Natalie talks badly about other contestants, and Jean asks her to stop being negative all the time. Afterward, Natalie leaves a voice message for Sebastian apologizing for what she did and crashes Sophie's house for dinner. While Sophie is preparing a salad, Natalie asks her if she is really happy with Thierry. Sophie replies with a yes and mentions that they have been together for almost 20 years now. In the meantime, Sophie's daughter Emma arrives there, and surprisingly, Natalie praises her for her beauty and elegance. After the girl leaves, Natalie slowly tells Sophie that she saw Thierry with another woman, prettier than her. Hearing this, Sophie gets mad and suggests that Natalie should not try to destroy others' relationships. The next day, Melanie pays a visit to Natalie's classroom and confronts her about her recent behavior. When Natalie gets angry, she challenges her to go and complain to the authorities. However, the wise Melanie suggests that they forget everything and start anew, so that the students don't suffer. Afterward, when Natalie visits her doctor and starts discussing her stressful life, the latter refers her to a psychiatrist and suggests that she do yoga or go swimming to release her stress. Elsewhere, Jean and Isabelle arrive at the airport and submit their tickets to the travel agent. To their dismay, the employee informs them that their booking has been canceled and that their seats have been sold to someone else. Enraged, the couple is compelled to return back. After reaching home, Isabelle mentions that she suspects Natalie to be the culprit and decides to use a technique that she learned from movies to prove it. Surprisingly, when she makes Mathilde call her mother, Natalie falls right into the technique trap, which proves that she was the one who canceled their trip. Despite this, Isabelle stops Jean from fighting with Natalie and even asks Mathilde to return home and spend some time with her mother. In the following scene, Mathilde can be seen having dinner with her mom. Suddenly, after taking some bites, Mathilde starts coughing and it seems like she got something stuck in her throat. Natalie panics and immediately calls 911 for help. Later, when Natalie is waiting outside a hospital room, Jean arrives there and asks her what happened. She just acts confused and says nothing. Then the doctor approaches them and reveals that Mathilde has reacted to some food she is allergic to and warns them to take care of her. Furthermore, he also mentions that she cannot participate in her upcoming audition because of her weak state. Upset, Jean accuses Natalie of feeding their daughter allergic food, but the latter denies having done so. Later on, when Mathilde is brought home, Jean inspects the kitchen and finds a bottle of peanut oil, which their daughter is clearly allergic to. He then gets angry at Mathilde and accuses her of intentionally using the allergic ingredients to harm Mathilde just before her dream audition. Before leaving, he makes it clear to his ex-wife that Mathilde will be staying with him from now on. After Mathilde leaves, Natalie is alone at her house, depressed and sad. Sophie visits her and in the meantime tries to calm her down and also sets her up with a female psychiatrist, a specialist in mother-daughter relations. In the next scene, Natalie visits the female psychiatrist but ends up arguing with her and questioning her about how she can be an expert in mother-daughter relations if she does not have a daughter herself. Later, Natalie goes swimming and meets an old woman, Monique, who reveals that her husband has recently passed away. Natalie sees her late mother in Monique and opens up to her about her current life. After hearing everything, the old woman tells Natalie that she loves dancing and tells her to call her if she wants company. At night, Sophie invites Natalie for dinner and asks her to remain strong through the numerous difficulties in her life. Right then, Emma arrives and yells at Natalie for trying to poison her own daughter. Sophie somehow calms her down and takes her away. After Sophie is gone, Thierry reveals that the woman that she saw him with earlier was his cousin, who came to visit Paris. Hearing this, Natalie feels really bad for whatever she told Sophie. The next day at the aquatic center, Natalie again meets Monique. This time, the old woman tells her the meaning of her name, rebirth, and also assures her that everything in her life will fall into place soon. The very next day, Natalie cannot find Monique at the aquatic center and asks for her home address from the receptionist. Sadly, when she arrives at the given address, she figures out that Monique has died after falling down the stairs. Devastated, she leaves immediately. Later, she arrives at Thierry and Sebastian's worksite and meets with Sebastian. At first, she apologizes for overreacting that day and also asks him to accompany her to Monique's funeral the next day. Meanwhile, we can see Mathilde practicing very hard for her next audition. In the next scene, we see Natalie and Sebastian attending the funeral. Monique's niece approaches them and expresses her gratitude for their presence. While returning from the funeral, Natalie thanks Sebastian for accompanying her, and the two kiss each other. Later at home, when the two are about to get intimate, Sebastian stops Natalie and tells her that he cannot make love to her as he is leaving for Japan soon for about a year. However, this information doesn't affect Natalie, and she asks him to continue. Slowly, Natalie starts taking care of her attitude towards others and gets her life back on track. She returns back to teaching at school and gets a warm welcome from all the teachers and her beloved students. This really moves her, and she now starts realizing the value of respect. The scene then shifts to Mathilde's final audition, where she performs gracefully. Unfortunately, despite her beautiful performance, the judges do not select her. As a result, Natalie gets angry and shouts at the judges for being partial and incompetent. Outside, Mathilde confronts her mother for embarrassing her in front of everyone. Natalie replies that she just expressed her feelings because she could not see her child being rejected despite her hard work and discipline. After this, she leaves, mentioning that Felix and Jean are there to look after her. The next day, Natalie receives a message from Mathilde informing her that she will return home in a couple of days. This sends her into a state of joy, as she can now finally make amends with her daughter. In the last scene, Natalie asks Mathilde to have fun with Felix and to return home before midnight. She then goes to visit the neighborhood couple, who frequently invite her to have drinks together. Sadly, when she knocks on the door, she is met by the husband who tells her that his partner left him because he was too jealous. The movie ends with the guy asking Natalie if she is jealous of anyone, and she replies, no.